All right. Welcome, everyone. I am so glad to be with you on this webinar. My name is Mark Christensen. I will be your host on this webinar today. This topic is so important. Hey, we're almost through the first year or the first month of 2025 already, and I probably have had 12 engagements with various clients on this specific topic already this year. Okay. How to grow as a leader. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. You are going to have access to a handout that will come to you along with a link to the recording of this webinar once it is over. Okay. But I want to start just by giving you a little bit of information about me so you know who I am. I founded Learning Point Group, which is based in Vancouver, Washington. We have a home, my wife and I have a home in St. George, Utah now, but our office is still in Vancouver, Washington, Northwest. The Northwest is where I grew up. I've done most of my work in the Northwest, raised a family in the Northwest. But for the last 15 years or so, I've been doing work with a variety of different organizations around the world on the topic of leadership. And for the past 10 years, I've also been a partner with the Blanchard organization. You may know them. They are the providers of situational leadership, SL2. Wonderful organization. So I really appreciate the opportunities I had to work with them as well. Most all of my career has been in leadership development, which is over 35 years working with leaders at every level. I really enjoy, I was doing this just yesterday in Denver, working with a group of hard hat leaders. They actually supervise people on the ground doing hands-on work. But I also work with senior leaders as well. And so what I've learned over the years from leaders, some of the best ideas and principles that I've learned from leaders like you, I'm trying to package in this 50-minute webinar today. And I want to start with a story, an experience that I had probably about 12 years ago or 18 years ago now. And it was climbing Mount Adams. So the picture that you see here is a picture of Mount Adams, which sits on the southern border of the state of Washington along the Columbia Gorge. It's a beautiful mountain. Maybe some of you are familiar with that mountain. I could see that mountain from my home on a clear day. I could see that mountain from my home in Vancouver, Washington. Now, full disclosure, these are stock photos, but the story is a factual story here. I knew the mountain. I could identify the mountain. I can identify the mountain today, right? If flying through the air, if you fly into the city of Portland, you'll have Mount Adams on your left. You'll have Mount Adams, you have Mount Adams on your right. You'll have Mount Hood on your left. Mount St. Helens is in the background, further north of Mount Adams. And then sometimes you can even see Mount Rainier further north in the state of Washington. Well, so the point here is that I knew the mountain. I knew what it looked like. I could identify it. I had talked with people who had climbed the mountain, but I had never climbed the mountain myself. Okay. And so I was invited to climb the mountain one day, about the actual climb, what was going to take place 2 months from the time that I was invited. It's a 2-day climb. It's a physically challenging climb, but it's not a technical climb. There's no belay lines. There's no, rappelling or anything like that. But most 2/3 of the climb is on glacier ice. Okay. And so the day came to start the climb. And as we were climbing, before we got to the glacier, early in the morning on day one, the sun was just coming up. The birds were chirping. The squirrels were cheering us on. And I was climbing with people that had climbed mountains all over the world. So they knew what they were doing, but this was my first time. And so we're moving along, and the guy, my friend, who's an avid mountain climber, he was feeding me trail mix, Gatorade, and these horror stories of people that got altitude sickness. And so we're moving along at a pretty good clip. And truth be told, I'm having more physical activity that day than I usually have, right? So I'm becoming a little bit winded, exhausted. We move above the tree line into this for the next 2 hours. We were crossing over this field of boulders, and then we hit the glacier, kind of like what you see on the picture here. We hit the glacier up, the glacier, the snowpack, and the ice. And I started to feel sick, fatigued. I felt like I had altitude sickness, right? And I said, "Hey, I think I have altitude sickness." And they said, "You know what? We're not even high enough yet for you to have altitude sickness." But because they were with me and because of the help that they gave me and the encouragement that they gave me, I was able to continue. And so at the end of the day, you camp, you sleep for a few hours that night at what they call kitchen counter, and then the next day you get up early and you climb to the summit. You summit about noon, midday, and then you glissade and descend the rest of the feet in the entire climb. Well, the point of my story is that it felt good to be there. And I felt like now I really knew the mountain. You know, flying by the mountain, looking at pictures of the mountain, being able to know about the mountain is not the same as actually knowing the mountain. And I like to use that metaphor because that's a lot like what it's like when it comes to growing ourselves as leaders. You know, reading a book, reading several books about leadership, attending a workshop, or even a webinar like this about leadership is not the same as actually climbing the mountain. In other words, the learning and the leading and the growing as a leader is actually in the climb. You have to do it. So the best place to learn to and grow as a leader is actually in the context of your everyday role as a leader. All right. And so, what I want to do in this workshop is give you a little bit of a structure, the same process that I walk through CEOs, executives, leadership teams, supervisors, frontline leaders, team leaders. It doesn't matter what level you're at, the process is pretty much the same. Some of the best practices that I'm going to introduce to you on this webinar are the ones that I've learned from successful and effective leaders around the world. Okay. And so who you are as a leader comes before what you do and how you do it as a leader. That is the very starting point, is that knowing who you are, reconnecting with who you are. I remember years ago too, working at a leadership offsite where several senior leaders were involved in this offsite at a ranch. Beautiful place. It was fun. They rode horses and they golfed and they had a lot of fun times together, but they also did a lot of hard work together. And this one executive, he was a labor relations executive vice president of labor relations of a very large company, where he had to manage three different labor agreements, union agreements, different unions, and lots of different. He was an attorney by trade. He had lots of different responsibilities in his role. And so as the week began, he was charismatic, he was energetic, he was fun, he was the life of the party. And then we started this process where they had time, each person in that group had time to actually take some time to introspect, to think about themselves and reconnect with their core. Okay. And as we started to do that, I noticed that he started to disconnect from the process a little bit. He started to disengage. He wasn't really into doing that. And it wasn't necessarily too far out there, but it did require that they had the courage and they were willing to really take a look at themselves. But as he saw that his colleagues, some of them he knew very well, but others were brand new, he didn't know them when the week started. He saw that they were engaging in it, so he gave himself a chance to do it as well. And so there came a point in the week where they actually got to share some of the things that they were reconnecting with regard to who they were and why they actually do what they do. And I remember that this very hard nails, operational type guy, he had to stand and deliver a little bit about him, and he became so emotional. And I'd seen that happen before, so I knew what was going on, but it did surprise me that he, given the way that he had approached the week prior to this moment, that he actually he was touched that much by what he saw. And what he said is, for the past 20 years, I've been focused so much on my career, the technical and operational, professional aspects of my career, that I haven't given myself time to reconnect with who I really am. this has been so powerful and so valuable for me. Okay. And so that's part of the process here is to actually start with reconnecting with your core. And I call that starting with your mindset. So I'm going to go through four different aspects of this idea, this process, the goal, the journey of growing yourself as a leader. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about skill set. We're going to talk about tool set. And then we're going to talk about where you go, who you have as your support team, so that you're not, quote, climbing alone. All right. And I am going to put in the chat, I'm hoping that you're able to access the chat on this webinar. I'm going to put in there a PDF document that will guide you through the same process that I'm going to introduce here. Okay. And if for some reason on your device you're not able to access the chat, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We are going to send you the handout, the PDF, and a link to this recording of this webinar as well. Okay. But let's go ahead and get started. What I want to do is I want to give you just a chance, kind of a flavoring, if you will, to consider some questions. And these questions are contained in the PDF as well. But these are the questions that you need to come to grips with for yourself as a leader in order to get started. Okay. And so the first question is, what does it mean to you to grow as a leader? What does it really mean to you to grow as a leader? And sometimes we read a book in my off time. Sometimes we think that leadership development or learning is something that we do when we have time. We read a book, we watch a video, we attend a class. It's almost ancillary to our actual job, to our actual role. And I say, throw that idea away. That is not where we grow. That doesn't mean that training and webinars and things like that aren't important. They are. They're kind of like the punctuation of your learning and growth experience, but they're not your learning and growth experience. Okay. And I'm in the business of giving webinars and giving classes and so forth. But I firmly believe that. So, what does it really mean to you to grow as a leader? All right. That's question number one. Now, question number two is, what is your personal commitment to grow as a leader? Are you really committed to do it? Is it a wishful thing, or is it actually a proactive priority on your part to make it happen? Okay. Keep in mind what I said earlier is the best place, the ideal place to really grow as a leader is in the context of your everyday role as a leader. All right. And so, question number three is, what brings you the most joy and satisfaction in your role as a leader? Okay. Now, it doesn't matter what your job is. Every single person in any kind of work endeavor, in any kind of a team or organization, has the opportunity to provide leadership. It's not about position. Leadership transcends position. Okay. It's about your influence. So, what brings you the most joy and satisfaction in your role as a leader? All right. Now, the next question, then, question four, is, what percent of your focus and your time and your interactions is focused on transactional versus transformation? Transactional is, the actual grind, the day-to-day implementation of your work, the operational work, and so forth. Getting the work done, getting through the day, working in your job. And transformational is different than that. Transformational is working on your job, working on your team, working on the process of growing and becoming better. Uh, Viewing every conversation is not just transactional. I got to get what I got to get from this conversation. We're viewing each conversation and activity as an opportunity to actually move the organization, move the relationship, move yourself forward. That things are better because of the conversation that you had or the activity that you were involved in. Okay. So, what percent? Both are important. Transaction is still important. You got to get the work done, right? But what percentage is devoted of your mind share, of your focus, of your time is devoted to transactional versus transformational? And I learned that leaders at all levels become very proficient at discussing transactional type topics. Okay, how many did we get done today? Are we going to get that done on time? What's the goal for tomorrow? What's our quota? Whatever it might be, we can talk transactional. We can talk shop about the work that we do. However, I have found that at all levels, the capacity to talk transformationally is a lot more challenging. It's lower than it should be, it could be for leaders. Okay. So keep that in mind. Now, the next one is, how do you see yourself learning and growing most effectively as a leader? Think about how you actually lead right now and how you actually grow and learn to grow as a leader. What does that look like? What are you doing intentionally to actually improve and increase your capacity to lead? What works for you, and what works for you may be different than what works for the next person. Okay, so there is no prescription, there is no specific prescription or script or plan here for how you do it, but there is a roadmap that I'm going to provide to you. All right. And so the next question then is, what do you anticipate to be the challengers, the derailers, the disruptions to your efforts to grow as a leader? Because there are many. The work itself, the work that you do will swallow you up. It will take away some of the focus, some of the time that you need in order to grow as a leader, unless you develop the habit of incorporating your growth into everything that you do. Okay. And so we're going to be taking a look at some of the ways that you can do that. I'm going to introduce to you some tools here, some activities, some processes that can help you grow as a leader. And these are things that we haven't just cooked up. These are things that we've actually seen work very, very effectively in all sectors of organizations, from government, state, local, federal government, nonprofits, for-profit organizations, hospitality, manufacturing, coal mining, copper mining, you name it. These are the processes that will work to help you connect with who you are, and then build the skills, build your capacity in a way that's relevant for the role that you currently have and that you possibly could have in the future. The first one is to develop your story. What is your story? What is your life story? What is your leadership story? Okay, and the way that you do this is you first you create a timeline. So you can do it kind of like it's laid out on the slide. You can do it on a piece of paper or on a poster. Or you can put it in your journal, but draw yourself a timeline. For at one end of the timeline is the day you were born, and then at another point on the timeline is today, and then leave some space beyond today for the future. Okay, and then what you do is you list out all of the events, the successes, the people that were positives. They were highlights for you. They could have been, sporting successes or accomplishments, graduation, education, talents that you've acquired and that you've put the time in. You've made the investment and it paid off. So, what are the successes? You put them on one side of the timeline, and then on the other side of the time, then you highlight some of the points of adversity, the challenges, the setbacks, the losses that have happened in your life, so that as you review those, both the highlights, the successes, and the challenges, the adversity, they could be, maybe you've lost loved ones and that type of thing. Maybe you've been through a divorce, or you've lost a job, you got laid off, and it had nothing to do with you. Whatever those things are, you list them down and you reflect on them. And what I've learned is that most of the time doing that, it actually helps us see how much resilience we have, especially on the adversity side. It helps us to see what we've actually been through. It helps us to reconnect with who we are. And then give yourself a little bit of time and space to also look forward. What do you anticipate? What are you looking forward to in terms of successes? It could be a promotion, it could be moving into a different kind of career, it could be a big project that you're looking to launch, it could be retirement, it could be something outside of work, it could be in your personal life. What does that look like? And then also, what do you anticipate that are going to be some of the challenges that will happen in your life? Okay. Some of those setbacks and so forth. All right. So you create the story. And then once you have it written out, I really encourage you to write it out. You put it on paper, and then you share it with at least 5 people. Okay. And it's not so much that It's important for them to have that information. It's important for you to share it, to actually for you to verbalize it. You may want to share it with those that you lead. You may want to share it with peers. Um, you may want to do that, but where I'd recommend you start is with people outside of your work, people that know you well. Okay, your some of your family members and friends and that type of thing. So in sharing it, you're going to reconnect with your core. Your story, your life experiences are so important. They're informing you. They've trained you. They've developed you in a unique way that's only you. They're only your experiences, and those life experiences are going to help you be the best kind of leader you can be today. They've prepared you for for the role that you have as a leader today. All right, the second one that I encourage you to think about is just become more aware of who you are and what you have going for yourself. Now, this diagram on the slide to the left, the four quadrant diagram, is actually called the Johari window, and it was developed years ago. If you've been to some of our workshops, you know that we talk about the Johari window. Okay, it was developed by a guy named Joe and a guy named Harry. So they call it the Johari window. And the idea here is that there are certain things that we know about ourselves and other people know about those things about us. Okay. We call that the public arena. And then there are things that other people see in us that we don't see in ourselves. We call that blind spots. Then there are things that we know about ourselves and no one else knows about them. They're the private arena. All right. And what I have found working with thousands of leaders over the years is that many leaders keep that public arena box really small, kind of like the green box there. They don't expand it. And that creates a liability for them. It creates a constraint on their leadership capacity. So the idea here is to grow that box, to allow yourself to actually grow that box. And the way you do that is you're willing to explore and learn what your blind spots are. And the best way to do that is to seek feedback from those people that you interact with, that you work with, that know you, family members and people at work, that you actually grow that box by seeking feedback. Okay. And not only to identify the liabilities, the blind spots that are getting in your way, but also to identify the strengths that you have. Because the people that you work with may be seeing strengths in you that you don't necessarily see in yourself. All right. Now I've got a friend who actually now he's the head coach of one of the NFL football teams. And he did play football a little bit in his younger life, high school, a little bit of junior college, but now he is a head coach. And as he progressed through his coaching career from one level to the next level, from a video analyst to a position coach to a QB coach, I used to ask him the question. I said, "Well, why would a multi-million dollar quarterback be receptive to your coaching?" And he said something that was so profound. He said, "Because I can help them see their performance in ways that they can't see it themselves. I help them see the strengths that they're not seeing in their own abilities, their blind spots." Okay. And so that's really, really important. The only way you're going to get that is if you proactively seek it. Now, some of us are fortunate enough. Maybe we have a really good coach or mentor or boss, manager, peer who will intentionally, proactively point those things out for us. Okay. But we need to be more proactive than that. We need to go seek that out from others. And here's an exercise you can try: get out your phone and text 3 to 5 of your close associates, whoever they are, today, do this today, and simply ask them, "What do you see as some of my strengths?" And you'll be surprised. You'll be amazed at the responses that you get. Now, the first response might be, "What are you talking about?" Say, "Well, I'm kind of looking at my leadership. I attended a webinar. What do you see as some of my strengths when it comes to my role as a leader?" You'll be amazed at what you get. My experience is you can bank on the feedback that you get. Okay. Now, the other part of that to expand the box down is to actually share more about your private life with others, with those that you lead. I'm not talking about everything. You notice that the graphic there shows a portion uh, of the private box, right? Not all of it. There's a lot of stuff that belongs in the private box. But if they can get to know you a little bit better, they can relate to you, and then the trust goes up, the empathy is there. And another really important thing happens is as you develop the skill of sharing about you, then you're actually reconnecting with your core. Okay. And you're allowing who you really are to become more of a part of what you do every day within your role, within your job, within your role as a leader. All right. So the three areas that we suggest you do that in as a starting point is to do that with regard to your values, your strengths, and your style. And so in the handout that we are providing to you, there is an opportunity for you to do that and to expand your understanding, your clarity for you on your values, your strengths, and your style. All right. And what we recommend is that you first, I'm gonna back up here, you first identify what they are. See if you can gain more clarity around what are your values. Those are the things that are most important to you. They're your personal values. We're not talking about your company values or your team values. We're talking about what matters most to you. Your values are there, they do exist. They drive your priorities, they drive what you do every day, they drive how you handle a situation. The question is, how clear are you on what those are? And how consistent do the people that you work with see your values the same way that you do? Okay. Your strengths are the things that you're good at. And those could be technical strengths. Maybe you're really good at analysis, spreadsheets. Maybe you're good at, forecasting, project management, whatever it is. And also, maybe you're good with people. Maybe you're good at asking questions. Maybe you're good at calming the team. Maybe you're good at creating vision. What really are your strengths? Okay. The third one is your style. What is it like working with you? What's the experience like working with you? Now, there's tools and instruments. And if you go to our website, you'll see some of these tools and instruments that can help you clarify your values. They can help you clarify your strengths and your working style. So, getting more clarity on them is step one. Step two, then, is actually discussing what you learn about you with some of your close associates, family members, peers, coaches, mentors, coworkers, your boss, your manager. And then step three is to reflect on those things, what you're learning and what you're learning about yourself. Reflect on how they show up every day as you go through your day's activities. Okay. All right. So that exercise is the next thing that we recommend, is that self-awareness exercise. The third thing that we recommend is that you actually take some time to think about and intentionally start to envision your legacy. Here's the question: when it's all over, maybe when you retire, when you're done with the current job, whatever it might be, when it's all over, how will the people that you worked with describe the impact that you had on them? Okay, actually think about that and write it out. Now, the handout, the PDF that we're providing, is going to give you the opportunity to do that. Okay. And so, that in a paragraph or two paragraphs, what is it that you would want them to be saying about? How would you want them to describe the impact that you had on them? Doing that process of thinking that through and writing that out is going to then influence your core, reconnecting with your core as a leader. Then the next thing that we suggest is that you actually write out your vision. Your vision is the picture that you see in the future of you effectively fulfilling your role as a leader, whatever that role is going to be, right? So, what do you see 1 year from now? What do you see yourself doing, not within your career, not within your job, not within the professional accomplishments? What do you see, or what would other people see you doing as a leader 1 year from now? What would be that demarcation of growth for you 1 year from now? And then how about 3 years from now? What do you envision you looking like and acting like 3 years from now? And do this in connection with that legacy statement that you created. Okay. And then also 5 years from now, what does it look like 5 years from now? We actually encourage you then to do this once a year. Okay, reflect back on what you wrote down with how you see we're going to see yourself a year from now, and then a year from now reflect on that, but then write it again. What are you going to look like? What's it going to look like a year from now at that point? Okay, 3 years and 5 years. So that becomes almost an annual exercise. All right, the next thing is for you to understand and become very aware of your self talk. One of the things that I have learned working with leaders, managers, supervisors, team leaders at all levels is that their self talk really does get in their way. They talk themselves out of the success that they otherwise should be having. Their self talk is undermining their success. Their self talk is oftentimes talking them out of having the conversation that they need to have, right? Showing up the way that they truly can show up. So self talk is powerful. And so what we encourage is that you be aware as you have a conversation, take a minute to think back when that conversation's over, that experience is over, maybe it's a meeting, whatever it is. Just think for a minute, what was I telling myself? Was it accurate? Do I know that it's accurate? Right? Anytime we have feel this negative energy inside of us, maybe it's preparing for a conversation or a big presentation or whatever it might be, and we feel this negative energy. Stop long enough to say, okay, what am I telling myself? Is it accurate? What do I really want to have happen? And then reflect back on past experiences, successes that you've had. That's why the life story is so important. That's why your legacy and vision statement is so important. Remind yourself of what you're capable of doing, okay? And then plan an action, actually proactively plan the steps that you're going to take to manage your success in that situation. Be mindful of what you're telling yourself and get in the habit of affirming through your self talk what really realistically is possible for you, right? So that's really, really important. Now, another thing that's, and these are laid out in that PDF. I encourage you, we're going through this in 50 minutes, but I encourage you to take a lot of time to do this if you're serious about your growth. Is for you then, once you've done the previous exercise that I've introduced, now put that into the context of your current role. Okay. So, what leadership is required of you in your current role? I'm not talking about your job, I'm talking about leadership. It's different. So, if you think of your job as this black and white box, that your job description, if you leadership typically is more of a squiggly line, and the boundaries of that expand beyond your current box. Your influence as a leader typically is going to expand beyond the confines of your job description, if that makes sense. Okay. So your growth, the efforts you take to grow yourself as a leader should be in concert and aligned with your actual role within your current, whatever it might be, within your current organization. All right. And to do that, you need to consider who those key stakeholders are. Who is it that needs to benefit from your leadership the most? The key stakeholders, anyone that directly impacts or is impacted by you in your role as a leader. What type of leadership is needed from me should be your question. You need to consider the relationships you have in every direction, upward, downward, sideways, all of those different relationships. That's going to help you understand the role of leadership that is on you right now. You're calling to lead right now. And once you have a clear understanding of that, then you can start to put together a plan of how you're going to grow yourself, grow your mindset, grow your skill set, and grow your tool set. Your mindset is that inner core of you. It's how you're viewing the world. It's how you're viewing yourself. It's how you're viewing the people that you lead. And it is so, so important. I've got a friend, colleague, his name is Ryan Gottfriedson. He is a professor in Southern California, and he's written a book called Success Mindsets. He's actually written a couple of other books too. But one of the analogies that he brings that I think is very powerful is that before we work on technique and even before we work on skills, we really do need to work on our mindset. And he uses the analogy of a computer operating system. And just like with a computer operating system, if my computer is 10 years old, even 4 years old, right? And I don't upgrade the operating system, and I just keep piling on new applications and new techniques and new platforms and that type of thing, then if I don't upgrade the operating system, then I won't be able to handle the capacity. The capacity will be limited. I won't be able to handle today's applications, software, and so forth. And so the analogy, he calls it vertical development first over horizontal development. We need to we need to grow our core, who we are, and our understanding of who we are before we can expect the skills and the techniques to take hold. And so that's a book that I recommend, Success Mindset by Ryan Gottfriedson. Okay. The mindset comes first, then the skill set. The skill set are those core capabilities that enable us to lead effectively. We're not talking about professional capabilities. We're not talking about, you know, uh, the discipline, the technical discipline that we're in. We're talking about core people leadership skills that can enable you to succeed in the relationships, the conversations, the team environments that you find yourself in, regardless of what they are. And over the years, we've identified, we're having worked with lots of different organizations and leaders, the six that we like. Now, these don't have to be your six, but they could be a good starting point for you. Okay. The first one is to own your role as a leader. That is a skill. And we have found so many times that, certain individuals succeed at their job as an individual contributor, then they're promoted and they continue to own their previous job. They continue to see success according to the success criteria of their previous job. They don't take ownership of their current role as a leader. They don't embrace that. Okay. So the first skill is to own your role as a leader. The second one is to build relationships of trust and respect. Each one of these is a skill. We can learn how to do these things. Okay. The third one is to interact with impact. That every conversation you have, every interaction is an opportunity to boost the commitment and the capability of the people that we're working with, and to also increase your own commitment and capability of the important work, the work that matters most to you. Okay. Number four is to coach for success. The craft of today's leader is to be a coach, to help those around you to build their capacity to succeed in their job. So learn those coaching skills. That's what leadership is all about in today's workplace. Number five is to build the team, regardless of what the team is. 90% of the work we do these days is dependent on other people. So regardless of what that team is, if we're working on something important and other people are involved in that, then there's an opportunity to build collaboration, teamwork in that work opportunity. Okay. And then number six is to lead change, to effectively lead yourself and other people through the ongoing change. Some of it's very challenging, it's relentless, it doesn't end. And so those are the six core skills that we recommend. We actually have both in person and online. We have resources that help you climb the mountain, do the learning, do the growing within the context of your everyday work. Okay. But these resources, they give you the framework and the tools to do that. So part of it is learning either through online classes or in person classes. But the real value is that it gives you what you need to go then do the climbing in the context of your everyday work. So we call that core leadership skills. You can look for that on our website if you wanted more information on that. But these six core skills are what we have learned working with over 100 different organizations intentionally to identify and doing the assessments to identify what really is the differentiator between successful leaders and those that are struggling in the job. Okay. All right. So develop your core skills and then make sure that you're also acquiring and putting into place the right tool set for you and for your team. And the areas that we like to focus on are listed here on this slide. Connection. Do you have good tools that help you stay connected? Tools and methods, right? So tools could be technology, they could be software, they could be worksheets or uh, different kinds of uh, methods, platforms, but they can also be processes and patterns of working practices within your team. Connection is a big one. How are you staying connected with your team members, the people that you lead, and what tools are you using to help them stay connected with each other? Okay. The next one is clarity. What tools are you using to bring clarity to the work that you do with those that you lead? Are they clear on who you are as a leader? Are they clear on their expectation, what's expected of them, the goals and the expectations? Are they clear on the vision? Do they share a common vision of where they're going as a team? Collaboration is a combination of teamwork and communication. So, do you have effective tools that actually enable your team to collaborate effectively together? Capacity and coaching. Do you have tools and a process, a method to, on purpose, build the commitment level and the skill level of the people that you're leading? Do you have tools to ensure consistency within yourself as a leader, within your team, and within your organization? Do you have tools to work on continuous improvement? Because one thing is clear, that the formula for success that worked yesterday is probably not going to be the formula for success that works, next month or a year from now. So continuous improvement requires a method, it requires a pattern, and it requires a tool set. Do you have tools to effectively operate as a team? And do you have personal productivity tools, from time management to scheduling to how you organize your computer, information management, knowledge management, those kinds of things? So good leaders these days, they have a best practice of putting in place the best tools they can find to help themselves and their team to succeed. Maybe there's other tools that you can identify that you're using as well. Okay. And so one of the resources that we have that would help you put those tools in place is what we call our team smart pass. That smart pass gives you access to the resources, the information that help you grow as a leader, help your team grow as a leader. And so what you do is you subscribe for a year, and then you have almost like all you can eat. You go and you get the resources on our platform that are most relevant for you in a given moment or in a given situation. So I encourage you, hey, to look at that as well as a possible resource for you. Now, the fourth area that I want to discuss with you is, we've talked about mindset, we've talked about skill set, we've talked about tool set. The last piece is, what does your support network look like? You do not need to grow your leadership alone. You should not do that. There should be people that you're engaging and working with to help you grow as a leader. And so let me introduce or outline some of those key types of support that are so necessary. The first one is your manager. Your manager is a coach. Okay. Now, some of you are very fortunate in that you have managers that get this. They want to help you succeed. They are great coaches. Okay. Good. That's awesome. That's great that you have that. Many of you, though, do not have that kind of a manager, at least not right now. Right. But the relationship you have with your manager, regardless of their interest or ability in coaching you, is still critical. That relationship, that manager has an impact on your success. So, what we suggest is you do all you can to engage your manager as a coach. And we have some tools and some methods for doing that. We don't have time on this webinar to introduce all of that. But again, you reach out to us and we can help you with that. Develop and turn your manager into a coach around your growth as a leader. Okay. The next one is to get an outside coach. Now, this whole activity, this whole idea of you having an outside coach is becoming more and more popular. We certainly recommend it. Okay. Your growth requires that you be receptive to coaching from others. And there is a wide, deep uh, volume of resources, people that are certified and capable to coach effectively. There's also those that call themselves coaches, but they really haven't been trained. They don't have the experience to coach. So you do kind of have to watch and see, do a little vetting of a coach, but see if you can find yourself a coach. And a lot of organizations will actually pay for that resource for you. Okay. We provide coaching. We have a team of coaches. They work one on one with leaders every day, and they work on those things that the leader, that the person being coached wants to work on. All right. So you can explore that. See if you can get yourself an outside coach. Now, another important support, type of support, is a mentor. Now, a mentor isn't necessarily a trained coach, and they're not your manager. Your manager is not your mentor. At least they might be a mentor, but that's not the kind of mentoring that we're talking about here. The mentor is someone who you ask for their help, you ask for their mentoring, someone you choose, okay? And they are neutral to everything else except working with you and helping you to grow. A mentor is someone that can help you see down the road. They've got wisdom, maybe they have experience, they've been down the path that you're going on, and they only have one objective, and that's to provide you with a little bit of insight and knowledge and wisdom and that type of thing. Okay. So find a mentor. It could be someone outside of your organization. It could be someone within your organization, but there's no cross circuiting going on, meaning they have one pure objective, and that is to help you see where you can go, how you can navigate your future as a leader. Now, another one that is really, really critical and important are your close associates. 3 to 5, maybe 7 individuals that know you well, that you trust, and they have your best interest at heart. They will give you meaningful feedback. They don't tell you what you want to hear, but they're not also just out to critique you. Okay. They are there for you. Family members, peers, people you went to school with, could be people within your organization. I don't recommend that they be your direct reports. I don't recommend that they be your manager. Why? Because then they've got multiple priorities in terms of the relationship with you. So these are people that can actually provide you with, information. They can help you grow that public arena. They can give you good feedback on your values, how they're playing out, your strengths, your working style, and so forth. Okay. They can help you hold you accountable for the goals that you set as a leader in terms of your growth and development. And then the other one could be other types of outside support. One resource could be within your HR group, that they can give you access to resources, training, tools, ways to build your skills, ways to examine and take a closer look at your mindset, your core. And also then, what are the tools that can be most effective for you? All right. So those are some of the types of support that you should not just kind of take this, for what's available. You should proactively go find these different types of support and put them into your practice and your growth as a leader. All right. So here's the big question. We've introduced this very quickly. I've introduced it very quickly on this webinar. What will you do to continue your climb? Okay. What are you honestly doing right now? And if you answered those questions that we went through at the beginning of this webinar, and you answered yourself honestly, and you do have a sincere desire to grow as a leader, you see the need for it. You can see that people are expecting and needing, they're going to benefit from your leadership. Then what are you really committed to do next? What are you going to do to continue your climb? And I say continue your climb. It's not like you're just starting out. You're not at the base of the mountain. You're on the mountain. You're doing some things, or you wouldn't even be on this webinar. But could you today identify what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next to actually accelerate and expand your growth as a leader? Valuable question for you to answer. Okay. All right. So within the context of what we do and what we can do for you, what next? Well, one of the things that hopefully you're aware of is that we will be providing monthly webinars, 50-minute webinars, just like this one, every month. And if you wanted to get on the webinar portal, some of you actually have access through your SmartPass memberships and other things. But you can sign up just for the webinars. The webinars are actually free, but if you wanted to get on the portal, you can do that as well. There's a fee for that, and that gives you additional resources. But the webinars themselves are free. So please look at the schedule, reach out to us. If you don't have the schedule, you'll find the schedule on our website to see what those relevant topics are that most leaders are looking to find information and inspiration on. The next one is going to be on leading as one, meaning as leaders within your team of leaders, how can you be united and focused and lead more as one? A very important topic. That's going to happen on February 20th, same time, 11 o'clock Pacific time. So you may want to sign up for that one as well. Look forward to seeing you at that next webinar. And then look into, if you'd like, look into our SmartPass options, which would give you access to a variety of resources, training, information, community building, and so forth, okay? So look at that. That says 2023. It should say 2025. It gives you the price there. So those are some of the ways that you can work with us to grow your leadership. But even if you don't explore any of those, these are options and resources that we provide, which there's many different ways that you obviously can grow as a leader. And regardless of whether you do those or not, you can certainly reach out to me. My email address is mark@learningpointgroup.com. You can go to learningpointgroup.com as our website. It's Mark Christensen. You can find me on LinkedIn. I love to have interaction and exchanges with people. No obligation. This is a community. Leadership is an important aspect of our work. Our organizations need good leadership. So I want to commend you for even investing 50 minutes to do this, to learn a little bit more. Thank you for the leadership that you provide. And if I can ever be a help to you, then please reach out to me, mark@learningpointgroup.com. Thank you for being on here. Have a wonderful weekend coming up, and we hope to see you in the next webinar. Bye-bye.